Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to Stories That Inspire Us. My name is Janice Malillo, your host. Today's guest, wow, sometimes it's hard for me to really do a guest justice, but let me just start by saying this. She went from a survivor to a warrior, took that to heart twofold. She's a cancer freedom and holistic coach, empowering women survivors to overcome their overwhelm, anxiety, and stress. I am so excited to welcome to the Stories podcast, Saras Naidoo. Welcome to the Stories family.
Thank you, Janice. I'm so happy to be here, and thank you for inviting me.
Oh, you are so welcome. Saras, when we were chatting, when we first met on the post podcast chit chat, excuse me, I always often go back to those conversations because it's really a chance for not only me to connect with the guests, but the guests to, of course, connect with me. And I remember saying to you, I think a lot of times when we first hear the word cancer, the first thing that pops up to me is I feel that it's almost like a death sentence, but it doesn't have to be. But that's all that we hear.
Yes. It's because that fear has been instilled in us, right? Mm-hmm. But really, what is fear? Fear is just a low vibration emotion, like all the other emotions. And how do we get over that fear? Is by raising our vibration. So remember, cancer is a low vibration emotion. And how do you overcome that? Is by raising your emotion to a higher level, your frequency to a higher level. And this may be going over some of you, going over your head, but I work with energy and frequency, and it's so much more than the food we eat and the exercise we do. It goes beyond that when you're trying to heal your body. So coming from that place, is where healing actually happens. When you go within to find the real cause of your cancer. Remember, the cancer or any other disease for that matter is merely a messenger. It's a messenger telling you, hey, girl or guy, wake up, wake up, wake up and smell the roses. That was my calling. So to me, I looked at my cancer as a gift. It was a gift because if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be where I am today. And people often say, well, did you, wish you didn't have the cancer? I said, no. It was my messenger. If it wasn't for that, I would not be transformed as a human being to the state that I am in today.
And you make a very amazing point there. And I love how you described that the cancer was the messenger for you, and you received that message loud and clear.
Yes.
And cancer ultimately was a gift for you because now you're in that position to help others. When you were, if you don't mind me asking, when you were first diagnosed, you were receiving that message, but was it clear to you at that time? Or was that something that was part of the transformation journey for you?
Oh, definitely was not clear to me. I went into immediate, fear and overwhelm and shock and you name it. I went through it. And over the process, I'm a 10-year warrior as we speak. And over the process of my transformation is when I realized that this was my gift. This was my true calling, and I'll just give you a little backstory. Is it okay to talk about that now?
Absolutely.
Okay. My husband was diagnosed with kidney cancer 2 years prior to me. So I went through the emotions of the, the stress and the overwhelm and the emotional turmoil, the crying and, the why me and why us and all that. So 2 years later, when I was diagnosed, really, in addition to all those emotions I felt, I also felt that I'm not going through the deep pain and emotion because I went through it already with my husband. Tell me what to do and let's get it done. So I didn't really come to terms with my own diagnosis. I didn't take the time to nurture that and to heal from that. As okay, let's get this done and let's move on. And that's what I did. And it was, I think, 2 years later, after I got through all my treatments and that I started doing my deep meditations and that, and I said to myself, I didn't heal and I didn't mourn my own diagnosis. And that's when it hit me and I bawled my eyes out and I cried and I went through those emotions and thanked my body and my spirit, for everything that we went through. And, I talk about the mind, body, spirit. So that's why I say we. And everything that we went through together, and I thanked every part of me that went through that journey and for all the transformation that came out of it. So it's so important to go through that mourning process, and heal from it. Because if you don't do that, then you cannot move forward. You have to face everything head on, heal from it, and then only you can move forward. So big lesson that I learned.
I'm getting the chills thinking about that, because as you were describing your journey, your husband having been diagnosed with the kidney cancer, and you go through all that, and then 2 years later, you are diagnosed. But it sounds from what you are describing, you went from not only the caregiver for your husband, but also into patient status. But boom, you went right into warrior mode. And it sounded like, as you were just describing, I think it's probably safe to assume that maybe it was good in a way you went to warrior mode, but you got to that point where, as you said, you had to go through that mourning process as well.
Yes, very important. And also, my husband was given 4 months to live.
Oh my gosh.
And it's a good story, though. It's a happy story. He's here with me as we speak. He thrived for 9 years.
Wow.
And how did he do that? I have to thank our medical system. I live in Canada. We have an excellent medical system, but you have to do your own inner work as well. And that's what we did. Now, my husband didn't believe in anything that I did holistically, but it was so nice because he never stopped me from doing or discouraged me from doing it into, doing my own work. And I used a lot of that on him as well. And eventually at the end, he did come around and said, continue doing what you're doing, more from spirit, because he's very connected to me. And he helps me so much right now with my work. And, in my meditations, I hear him saying, continue with what you're doing. It's important work, and I'm going to help you from where I am. And together we help others through this journey by our stories.
Would you say that in doing that, having that spiritual connection really helped you to define where you wanted to go, which led you to being a cancer freedom holistic coach?
Absolutely.
Like, what was that point where you decided, this is something that I need to share with the world? I need to share what I know and how I worked through it.
That came through my deep meditations. I'm a retired high school teacher, I love teaching. That was the only thing I knew from the time I could, speak or whatever. I wanted to become a teacher. And I taught for all those years. And then I realized when I was going through this journey, that was just my practice grounds. This is what I came here to do. This is my true calling. So it's also teaching in a way, but my true calling was to do this work, to help others through this journey. And I love what I do. And, I've helped so many people. Actually, my husband, when he was here, we both did a lot of this kind of work, just talking to others, helping them through their journeys. And it was amazing how much just talking to people helped, and to get them over, the fear. Because really, when you think of anything, you can overcome that by getting over that fear, because the fear is the real thing that gets in your way. I call it a low vibration, right? And it gets there and you face it head on and you move past it. But the cancer grows in your body for years and years and years, and it appears. So you're not just going to treat it overnight. It's a process, right? So you go through that process and you go through the fear. And the 3 steps that I teach is, first of all, getting past that fear of your diagnosis and the fear of death and whatever fear, fear of, oh, how am I going to take care of my family? All those fears. And then the next step is to find your inner power, to find that inner power, and then bring it out, bring it forward. And the last step is to stay or live in that warrior mindset. You find the warrior within you and live in that warrior mindset, and then nothing can touch you.
Wow, I really, on a personal level, really connected with what you just said. Obviously, I'm thinking about my son, and as a parent, what I went through, not a cancer diagnosis, but, where you're talking about, finding that inner power.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that I had to be stronger than I ever thought was humanly possible, and really stay and live in that warrior mode.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That was not easy.
It's not easy. That's why I say it comes with practice. It comes with practice. But once you reach that, wow, nothing can touch you. Nothing can touch you.
And that is huge as well, because I think as we go through the stages or the mourning process, as you're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
getting to that point where you immediately went into warrior status, and then, oh my God, all of a sudden you felt the mourning process of it, where you were crying, and all those emotions that popped up for you, and how that, excuse me, how that affected you on so many different levels. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it takes a lot of strength and courage to say, hey, I need to take some time to process all this. Now, you had mentioned that Canada has a very good medical system. What would
Yes.
you say to someone who maybe is just diagnosed, and they're feeling this overwhelm, they're feeling this anxiety?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they don't know the types of questions or things that they need to chat with their medical professionals about. What are some tips, or I should say strategies, that you can offer to someone?
Well, when you are first diagnosed, the fear gets into you and you can't think straight. Now, anything I say from my own experience. I will never talk about something that I haven't studied or that I haven't experienced, right? So you are frozen in that fear. So you cannot even think straight. And it's so important to talk about what you are going through. I believe in working as a team, working as a community. Find a friend, find a buddy, and talk and get it out of your system. The more you talk about it, the freer you feel, right? And start to meditate. And the best form of meditation is find something you love to do. Like my way of meditating is, it's fine if you can sit on a mat for hours and do that. That's fine. I do that sometimes. But the best form of meditation to me is finding something you love to do and just do it. Gardening, singing, art, music, whatever you love to do, find that passion and just do more and more and more of it. And right away, you raise your vibration. And breathing is so important. We don't breathe enough. We only take in 1/3 of the air that we breathe. And it's not the number of years that we live, but the number of breaths that we take. So the more deep breaths that you can take, can you imagine how many more years you'll add to your life? So take those deep breaths, and it also helps to clear your mind and eventually, get over that fear. So if that's all you do is sit for 2 minutes and take some deep breaths and be one with your breath, connect with that breath, because it's the breath that's a life force that connects us to Mother Earth and to Father Sky, I call it, or the universe, right? So that connection is what we have to get back into, is what we have to find. And we lose it over the years because we get so busy living a human life that we forget that we are spiritual beings in a human body, right? So we need to find that spirit again.
I think that is so true. We have to give ourselves the opportunity to mourn the process, to, feel what we are feeling, to at some point help us to have that strength to raise our vibration.
Absolutely, yes. And a big part of my teaching, I teach the vibrational scale and the low vibrations, of hate and stress and overwhelm and fear, and how you move up that scale into the higher vibrations of joy and love and happiness, and and that. So it's a process, and all the different steps that you take. So a big one I gave you already is find something that you love to do, and right away you go up that scale. So easy to do that, right? But it takes practice.
It certainly does. And I was just saying to my sister, yesterday it was so beautiful in the Northeast here, and I'm like, I love to be outside. And just that, I felt like it just raised my spirit, just being outside to
Yes.
feel the warmth, and whatever that is in the moment for somebody else, like take the opportunity and be kind to yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think there's such a great feeling too, that when we physically participate in raising our vibration versus maybe waiting for somebody to help us with that. But there is help, of course.
Yes. There's all kinds of help. There's all kinds of help out there. And like I say, the best thing you can do is talk to a buddy. And you know what? If you're a person that loves to be by yourself and don't have a buddy or don't want to talk to anybody, go out in nature, talk to a tree, talk to the plants. You'll be amazed at what comes back to you. You talk, you give them all your troubles, and then you just listen. And in that silence, the answers will come. It's so profound. And again, I'm only saying it from my own practice, because I lost that part, before the cancer, because you're living your life, you earning a living, you're doing all that stuff. And then this just brought me back. The cancer brought me back to a standstill. And that's when I started doing the inner work and finding who I really am, and I'm a nature freak. I'm a master gardener. I love being in nature. I'm surrounded by plants right now. Can't wait to go plant those little seedlings, So whatever it is that brings you that joy and excitement, do more of it. Do more
Mm,
of it.
that is so true. Going back to your cancer diagnosis, what
Mhm.
was one thing that really stands out to you? Obviously being a teacher, maybe you were now taking on the role of student, learning some new things along the way. What is one thing that stands out to you that maybe was different for you than it was for your husband?
Uh, for my husband, I was there, to support him, and he was there for me too, because he was at a stage where he could help me, and I have 4 beautiful children that that saw to every need that was possible. Um, I'll tell you the biggest thing that was a wake-up call for me when I was diagnosed. I was not used to receiving anything. Give till you cannot give anymore. That was me, and that's many, many, many people that I talked to, right? So the biggest thing for me was learning to receive, because receiving is also a gift. And the biggest thing was, I get emotional just talking about this, watching my children take turns coming and taking care of me, and allowing them to cook for me, to feed me, to sit with me. I didn't know how to do that. And when I watched them get so much joy from doing that, I thought, oh my goodness, I could not receive a bigger gift than that. And my youngest, my son, he's to watch him even do that and sitting beside me. I mean, they all adults. My children are all adults. They have their own families. And to watch them take turns, and nurture me and help me, I tell you, that was my biggest gift. And I have tears just thinking about that. It's so important for us to let go and let others help you and receive, because receiving is also a gift. If we don't receive, then we are depriving the person that's giving to us of their gift of giving. So big
Oh,
lesson for me, for
yeah,
me.
so beautifully put. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Oh, you're welcome.
So you get to a point where you knew what your true calling was. Like,
Yes.
did you just wake up one morning and say, this is what I'm going to do? And how did you go about learning more or getting a certification if you needed to where you live? Like, what was the process for you?
Well, when my husband was diagnosed, I did so many, uh, I did so much of research, because I was an advocate for excellent health. We lived a very, very, very healthy lifestyle. I cook, well, I grew my own food. I cooked everything from scratch. There was nothing that we didn't do when it came to health.
Mhm.
And yeah, both of us were diagnosed with cancer. So right away, I knew there was more to just the diet and nutrition and, exercise and that. So I started doing a lot of research as soon as my husband was diagnosed. I researched nutrition, I went did all that. And then I started meditating, and through the meditation, the answers came. And I started writing a journal, a daily journal. And that journal is now turning into a book, which I'm working on. I'm working on it. So anyway, I studied uh, Reiki, I studied hypnotherapy, I studied life coaching, and now I'm into mediumship, anything. And these things just came to me. I did not go looking for them. It just showed up in my inbox. You got to do this. You got to do, it just came to me. And that knowing was there. There was no getting away from it. So while I was a caregiver to my husband and teaching full-time, I also did all these courses,
Oh my
you
goodness.
know, and it helped me so much. And eventually, when I was diagnosed, and then also we had friends and family that would come and visit, or we actually started a Facebook page for Jeff, because we had family all over the world, and they want to know how. He's a very popular guy, very well liked by everybody. So we started this Facebook page, and people were putting messages on there, and I would, continue to talk about his progress and what we were doing to help him. So that alone was a lot of coaching that we did, through that Facebook page. Then we had friends that would come over that they were going through, a family member was going through cancer and they didn't know what to do, and they could see how we were living. And so we'd say, well, come over for tea, and we'd talk to them and go through all this, what we were doing, and help them out. And it was just something that just came so naturally.
Wow.
And so eventually, in my meditations, I'm getting these messages. Okay, enough of this. Now you've got to go online and help others. And and that's exactly what I did. I started doing this. I mean, it's mostly volunteer, right? Volunteer work. But just in the last, I think, 2 or 3 years is when I actually uh, thought, well, I should do this now and help others. Because when I look at it, money is a form of energy as well. We do the energy exchange, right? Because everybody is happy with that. It's not about the money, it's about the transformation that you bring to somebody, and they don't mind, wanting to thank you for that. That's the way we all as coaches work. So I just want to bring that forward. It's not about how much you're paying an hour, it's about your transformation and the energy, thank you gift that you give. So that's the way we look at it.
Wow. That is so amazing. You had mentioned, obviously doing all the research that you did, and I've been scribbling so many notes here, and journaling. And I was going to ask you about journaling before you said that.
Mhm.
And of course, you mentioned you're working on your book, which congratulations. That is
Thank
fantastic.
you.
And I know it will be a #1 bestseller. Look back at your journal, because I think this
Yeah.
is really important to ask. What is maybe you read a certain paragraph that you wrote maybe a year ago. What is one thing that stands out to you? Like, did you look back at something? Does that bring you back to where you were in that moment in time? And how does that make you feel today?
We forget, right? As things happen, even in an hour later, you forget things. But by writing it down, it's so important that when you go back, I mean, it's 10 years for me, when I go back, I started this book a while back, and then I put it aside for 8 years. And because, I don't know, for some reason, it wasn't the right time, but somehow now in my meditations, this pull is coming back. You got to finish that book. You got to finish that book. People need to hear it, So again, so I started with this writing again. I did 3 chapters and put it away. So it's coming back now. But in addition to that, Janice, thank you for bringing up the journaling, because another important thing that I started doing was, and what I ask others to start, it's never too late, is to start a gratitude journal. A gratitude journal is something that I did, and I've been doing consistently now since 2016. And it became a form of a quick meditation as well. So I started actually writing it in a book, because there's energy in your handwriting, right? And you write 5 things that you are grateful for, or even 3 things. Start off with 3, or even 1, whatever is okay for you. Write 5 things that you are grateful for in the day. We all tend to think of everything bad that happens and complain. But when you really think about, well, what good happened today? And you write that down. And the more you do this, the more good things come to you. And you keep writing. And right away, that raises your vibration and it keeps you in that high vibration. Even if you have to repeat things, I repeat things every day. Thank you for my abundance. Thank you for my food. Thank you, for my gardening. Thank you for my plants. Thank you for my friends. Whatever it is, write it out. I started writing in a book. And then what happened with all the traveling we did, I always forgot my book. So the last, I'd say 3 years, I started doing it on my computer because my computer goes everywhere with me. But when I do it, I take the time to meditate through it and then type it in. And that can be a quick 2-minute form of medication. It doesn't take long to write out 5 things you're grateful for. And that, I tell you, one thing alone would work wonders.
Saras, as you were describing that, and I love always when I see the expression come out in my guests, like the energy, like you just lit up like a Christmas tree.
Yes. Yeah, I love doing my journal because it's I do it late at night just before I go to bed, because then I think about my day, I write my diary, and then I think about all the things I was grateful for that day, and I write it out, so I go to bed with that high vibration. It's amazing how much that alone can change you.
That is so true. Now, do you have an ETA when your book will be published?
Not really. In my head, I do, I would like to get it done this year, but when it comes, the actual writing part is not a problem, but it's all the other stuff, the editing, the publishing, and all that stuff is what takes time. So I am working with Hay House. I'm doing a program with them, and I'm hoping that, because they have such a backlog, any publisher you go to has such a backlog, right? So you have to give it some time. But a lot of what's in my book, I teach as well through master classes and 3 and 5 day challenges. So I'm always doing different things, with I have a Facebook group where I have really wonderful members in there that help one another, and a really nice group. So this is where I do a lot of my teaching, and there's so much of free videos and stuff in there already. So anyone that's interested can join the group and have access to all that free stuff.
That is fantastic. Of course, my next question is, how can our viewers and listeners connect with you further? So you mentioned your Facebook group.
Yes, and it's called Cancer Freedom Sisterhood. So if you want to,
Cancer Freedom Sisterhood. Okay.
Yeah, Cancer Freedom Sisterhood. And then, of course, my website, my name, sarasnaidoo.com. And my website basically has, what I offer as programs. It's got a free, there's a free gift there in the form of a workbook. If you go into the main page, and it just gives you more information about who I am and so on. I have to update it a little bit, but my Facebook group is the one that I'm very active in. So that'll be the place to go to.
Wonderful. And of course, I will make sure all that gets in the show notes. Just want to segue over for just a moment to welcome all of our listeners who are currently on the Wisdom Audio app. I see so many familiar names, so thank you all for being here today. Saras, do you have time, maybe if one of our guests may want to come up and ask you a quick question?
I was just going to say, I can answer questions if somebody has questions. I love questions because it gives me something to talk about. Sure.
Yes. Okay, Wisdom, you heard it here. We have time for one guest to come up on stage. If you'd like to ask Saras a question or perhaps contribute to the conversation, we would love for you to come up on stage. Saras, as we are waiting for somebody, hopefully to come up on stage, hopefully there are not too many. We will treat you so awesome on here. We don't want you to be afraid. This is a safe zone, and I want to, sometimes I forget to mention that, because when we have people that contribute to a conversation, I just feel that that's so much more that we can learn from each other.
Absolutely. Yes.
Excuse me, in your Facebook group, I assume that it's all women in your Facebook groups.
Yes, I did have a mixed group, but I decided to change it, because I find that I could do a better job with women, being a woman myself and going through breast cancer. So I changed it to, before it was Cancer Freedom Warriors, and now I changed it to Cancer Freedom Sisterhood. And it's a very, very safe place to be. There's all kinds of stories that you can share and get help from others, from other sisters, and myself. And I'm in there. I answer I answer all the questions. So feel free to, be part of the group.
That is so beautiful. And I would assume that, things may pop up that, each of the members can partake and learn. What
Mhm.
is one thing, for instance, that you have learned from your Facebook group?
What I learned was, I have to allow, uh, I'll say clients or people that I'm working with to tell me what they need and teach them what they think they need, not what I think they need. That was a big eye opener for me. From my own journey, I know what I needed, right? And I assume that, well, everybody else needs the same thing. Not really, because individual needs are different depending on their circumstances. So it opened me wide, to things like that, where be open to listening and learning. And we are all yet to learn from one another. I always believe in that. Nobody knows more than anybody else. We are all, from until the day we die or transition. I don't like using that word, die. We are learning every day. We are learning something. And also be very open to the children that are coming. They are the warriors. They are the true warriors, and just listen to them and you'll be amazed how much you learn from them.
And the learning process, really, we do learn every day. And
Absolutely. Yes.
to raise our vibrations and to help others and share what has helped you, or maybe you learn something different from someone else. And that is, I think, the beauty of the Cancer Freedom Sisterhood.
Yes, absolutely.
Wow. Oh my gosh, Saras, I think we've only just really scratched the surface, and I hope that you definitely will consider coming back to the Stories podcast at some point. I would love to have you back as my guest.
I would love to, Janice. I love chatting with you as well. Yes,
Wonderful.
we will do
So
it again.
awesome. So of course, as I said, I will make sure that all of Saras's contact information is in the show notes. Cancer is a low vibration emotion. That's nothing that we ever take for granted, but know that if you work through those emotions, or even reach out to Saras to help you go from survivorhood to warrior, that is the beauty in the stories that inspire us. Today, I was truly even more inspired and, of course, impressed by my amazing guest, Saras Naidoo. Thank you so much, Saras. You are truly a gem.
Oh, thank you, Janice. I just love being here in your energy as well, and your group's energy. I could feel it. I could feel them in the background.
Thank you so
Beautiful. Thank
much.
you.
You're very welcome. Know that if you have a story to share and it will inspire others, chances are that it definitely will. Please do not hesitate to reach out to me. My name is Janice Malillo, the host of Stories That Inspire Us. how will you inspire others today? We hope to see you again very soon. Thank you all so much. Thank you to all my amazing listeners on the Wisdom Audio app, and bye for now.
Bye.